before. I lost that love before. I lost that love.
All right, Lan,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm reasonable.
Reasonable,
Yeah.
reasonable as well. Thank you for the hospitality and inviting me over. It's a beautiful place.
No, thank you.
So, I guess like for the people that might not know you, can you give me a little background on like what you've done in Magic and like I guess I know you have a rip run of top 8ing some events.
No, I'm like, I guess like one way to describe it is I'm your favorite Magic player's favorite Magic player.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I played on the Pro Tour from the late 90s, early 2000s, although I played again in Sydney in like 2016.
Okay.
But I moneyed in 5 of my first 6 Pro Tours. I top 32, 3 of them. My best finish was 12th in Chicago in 1999 playing a Tinker deck.
Yeah.
I top 8'd a couple of like GPs, and I got 10th in another one.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been playing Magic for a long time, since 1994.
Yeah.
And I've kind of had a like so many people an on again, off again relationship with Magic.
Yeah.
I think it was basically from like 2001, 2002 to 2009. I basically didn't play at all.
Yeah.
Right. And it was team events that kind of got me back into competitive Magic. And then so I was just practicing for team events, and I bought a bunch of boxes of M15.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
No. It wasn't M15. It was actually even earlier than that. It was the Ravnica set at the time.
Okay.
Right.
Return to Ravnica, the first one.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
Selesnya Guildmage.
Yeah. Very familiar with that.
So
Yeah.
because of that, I just, you have a bunch of cards, right? And then I was like, oh, well, maybe I can start playing like, if I buy some shocks or whatever, I can start playing constructed at the store. So
Yeah.
that's how I got back into Magic.
Yeah. So your journey in Magic's been in New York and then Philly, back to New York, or like where?
I started in Texas.
Okay. Okay.
And that's how I became friends with like David Williams and a lot of like the Texas guys.
Yeah.
From the very beginning.
Yeah.
I grew up playing in the Houston area.
Okay.
And do you know Tony Sod?
No. No.
He was Chris McCullough's roommate
Okay.
for a while, but he's originally from Houston.
Okay.
And he and Chris like went to school together. And it was my first sanctioned tournament ever on San JatCon in the summer of '96. And I actually didn't care about sanctioned Magic or any of that
Yeah.
stuff. And I only signed up because it was a sanctioned tournament and you had to be sanctioned to play in it.
Yeah.
And that's how I got a 4-digit DCI number.
There you go. There you go.
And
I'm proud of my 8-digit DCI number. So a 4-digit one is pretty impressive.
and I was winning a lot of like the local tournaments at the time. And I kind of also, as a young gun, had a lot of disdain for a lot of other players.
For sure.
But Tony, as a fellow Asian, I listened to a lot of what he said. The comments that he made were actually like really good.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this guy's like really sharp. And so we exchanged information.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up winning the tournament. I played Necro.
Oh, awesome.
Back in the day when like not everyone was playing Necro. There were like 2 Necro players in the tournament.
Okay.
And I beat
Is
them.
this like the cusp of Necro Winter?
This was Alliances had just come out,
Okay.
but I don't remember whether it was street legal yet.
Okay.
Because I remember wanting dystopias in the sideboard, but I don't remember if I actually played with them.
Yeah.
Right. But it was just like right when Alliances had just come out.
Okay.
So it was kind of the beginning, I feel, of like Necro.
Yeah.
Right. Pro Tour 1 already happened. And Graham Tatimer and Leon Lindbeck both top 8'd like in the juniors and the seniors Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Respectively.
I don't think a lot of people a lot of modern players or more recent players probably don't even know about the JSS. Like, the different age bracket Magic that is no longer. I mean, now you see like 8-year-olds getting like anytime they get to day 2, it's like, oh, this is like a crazy story. But there used to be the full JSS.
Yeah, they used to compete for like squashing money.
Yeah.
And, I think like John Finkel actually started in the junior circuit.
Yeah.
And I think after the third pro tour, he was like, well, I'm clearly good enough
To play with the adults. Yeah.
Did you ever read like Sklansky? You know, the
No.
Theory of Poker?
No.
One thing that he wrote was that games are the great equalizer,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't matter, like, you know, obviously, like, the social aspect of the game is like different. You know, sometimes it's like regressive or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the tables, it doesn't matter what race you are, what gender you are, how old you are. Right?
Yeah.
If you're winning, right, you're being
winning.
afforded respect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're like an 8-year-old who's just winning at Grand Prix, right?
Yeah.
You know, the stories that you're winning at Grand Prix.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's really cool. So then after Texas and this crowd, then how did you eventually migrate to like the East Coast and build that?
So I became friends with a lot of like people on the East Coast.
Yeah.
John Finkel, Dan OMS and Steve OMS, Tony and Chris were out here,
Yeah.
and Josh Ravitz. I don't know if you.
Name sounds familiar, but I've never met Josh.
But a lot, like, you know, a lot of the Magic scene in the 90s, especially like the people I was friends with, right, were on the East Coast. There's such a population density out here. And John, Dan, Mike Flores, and Ravitz basically like launched a charm offensive to get me to move out east. Basically, since like the 2000s, like John was just like, this is the New York's the greatest scene in the world. You gotta get out here.
Yeah.
And around 2008, 2009, I started working on like I Came the Game, which is like the Magic documentary that we talked about, which we never finished, but I was kind of like spinning my wheels. In Texas, I was working for Pierce House developing standardized tests for the state of Texas, and I didn't feel that I had any, you know, I didn't have any prospects going forward.
Yeah.
You know? I was just kind of like just turning my wheels in place. So I decided just to take the leap and move to New York.
Yeah.
And it's funny, at a job interview a couple of years later, they asked me why I decided to move to New York, and I was like, well, I didn't have any real plans. But I thought that with my, you know, particular talents, my skill set, and my personality, if I put myself in enough 1% situations, one of them will work out.
Yeah.
So, and I'm still here in what I think is the greatest city in the world.
It's hard to dispute that.
And I'm still friends with like all these guys. Like,
Yeah.
I see John and Dan and Flores like about once a week at least. You know, and we keep up in the group chats and stuff.
Yeah. So you already kind of had a New York network when you moved up here.
Oh yeah,
It was like a very
super.
You got courted. They pulled you in instead of you finding them once you got here.
Yeah, it was like super lucky because when I got here, right, like View can be a really scary place.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for sure. And some people say that, what's the thing they say, like you're surrounded by people but you're alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Gil Scott-Heron has a lyric in a song called "New York is Killing Me," and it's like 8 million people, and I didn't have a single friend. You know, and I think that's that embodiment of that. Yeah.
I never had that experience.
Yeah.
I was lucky to have like the opposite experience.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned before, I also was involved with Superfusion, which is like the online like shopping and fashion format.
Yeah.
And that had a big New York presence. So I became friends like with, you know, all the gamers and stuff in the old days, and I became friends with like Scott and Derek, Sydney Lowe, Rocky, and a bunch of other guys in New York. And through them, a bunch of people like who were at FIT or in the new school, Parsons and stuff.
For sure.
And then
That's a wild overlap for me, but it's something like they're both fashion and magic are interests of mine as well. So like getting to meet you and Derek and Scott and like just getting the download of like all that knowledge is awesome because like, I love clothes. So I'm sure we could do a clothing podcast probably on a different day. just about clothes.
Well, that's the weird thing was that like that's one of the reasons why I decided to go with starting a movie club in New York. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, John and Lauren, I told another friend Lauren, I told them about movie club. They were really excited to like get it started here, and I was just kind of reluctant because like you have to have like a big space to have that many people.
Yeah.
Luckily, John has like a pretty large space, but this was a way for my friends to become friends with my friends.
Yeah.
Who didn't know each other.
Yeah.
So like, it was really funny to see like these like 18, 19-year-old kids, you know, girls become friends with like John and Dan.
Yeah.
And there's like this overlap.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you like these were friends of Scott's also. I don't know if you know them. Brittany and Andrea.
No.
This was like
many moons ago.
Yeah, this is like deep magic from the time. But they used to call John. They would just like call him Finkel.
Yeah.
Which was hilarious because that's what
Magic players call him Finkel.
Yeah, so they just like started calling him like they were like a gym coach.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, like I think when I interviewed him for Money Draft, I had to like try to practice to not call him Finkel, and I probably still did instead of calling him John a couple times for sure, just because I'm so used to referring to him as Finkel.
Even in my like civilian life when I'm not talking to him, I think I'll call him like Finkel like half the time. Depends on who, you know, like if I'm talking to Dan and I say John, right? You know, then we know who we're talking about.
Exactly.
But but there are a lot of Johns in the world.
Yeah. So we almost assuredly, I mean, we met this year probably, but we almost assuredly played Magic in the same room together in Philadelphia. So how did the New York, like how did you do that transition to Philly for those years that you spent in the Philly scene?
So my career took like a 170-degree turn. Like in 2011, I took a job in Philly with Zig, and then I was still playing Magic. I began playing a little more, right? Because I was going to team events, and I forgot which event it was, but Pam at RIW. It was at a team event. I wanted to start playing Magic, so I was like, oh, I just want to buy a set of shots. Right? If I get all 40 shots, it'll just like open a lot of doors, and I can just like build one deck.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And then just start playing at the
seasoned Magic player starts with mana base.
At the LGS. And obviously, like, you just don't build one deck.
No, of course not. Yeah.
But my first thought was like, oh, I can just build like one deck and it was good.
Yeah.
And Mark Herberholz, you know, I became really good friends with him. And like RIW was his like, flagship store, so he just like talked to Pam. And I think shots were about like 8 each at the time. So I was like, oh, you know, she's cut me a deal and I could buy like a set of shots for like 300, right? That'd be awesome. And then I could just like play Magic. And then she like gave them to me for like 3 each.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's sick.
Which is just like insane. Like I think it's basically like a cost. Yeah. So like I just started playing Magic. Yeah. And I went to Red Caps randomly.
Yeah. Which is that's like, to add in my own personal context, I moved to Philly in 2011 as well, from Delaware. That's when I started to go to Drexel.
Okay.
And like I joined the Drexel Magic Club, and then through there we realized, oh, like the real gas is playing with the Penn guys. So the Penn Magic Club would do just like, this guy Ben North would buy boxes, and you would just do drafts at cost there. And that's where I met the guys that own Red Caps, and they had just opened Red Caps in 2011. So that was like, I think the Alara block was like their first pre-releases that they did there, I think.
Yeah, Laura was like 2009, I think.
Oh, wasn't it?
Only because I moved to New York, and that's what everyone was playing.
Yeah.
And I drafted a lot of, like, Dance Exalted.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's like easy put me onto that.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
So the Red Caps guys, like, I met them through Penn Magic in that West Philly scene, and then like ended up at the same shop, which is why I'm convinced, like we were talking last night, like there has to be an F&M or some PTQ or something where we played together in the same room, like assuredly, especially because we have a laundry list of people that know the same people. So it was one thing was like pretty funny was the company I worked at had a summer associate program, or associate program. Yeah.
It was like Drexel rotation.
I wonder people.
I wonder if we knew some of the same people there.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I took liberties with my co-ops for sure. My second co-op actually was Drexel. I already graduated. My second co-op actually was with a friend who owned a record label.
Oh.
So he just signed my co-op papers. And like I did some event promotion and shit, but like that was just like 6 months of just like going to concerts and
amazing.
Doing like sitting in studios and hanging out. Like there was no like
these guys were
they were grinding.
They were grinding. They were showing up at like 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Doing like position reconciliation, P&L. You
Yeah.
have to do like the midday P&L and then, write Excel scripts and stuff.
Yeah, no, my co-op experiences were, my theory with the co-ops were like, I knew that you could either try to get for the same company 3 times and then get a job there, or you could just go wildly different. And that's the path that I did 3 wildly different ones, including one that was may or may not have been a co-op, but the papers were something.
But I played a non-trivial amount of Magic.
Yeah.
I was friends. I mean, we talked about our friends with Adam, Michael, Mika,
Yeah.
Garrett.
Yeah.
And
like you played a team event with Ralph and Frank, right?
Ralph and Chad.
Ralph and Chaz, yeah, Chaz Hinkle, yeah. So when Chaz when they opened the AU in Wilmington for the first time, Chaz was like in charge of like running that. So it was, I don't know if I was back in Wilmington or I was considering moving back, which is where I live now, but I was going in there and like, because it was in the same shopping center that I learned to play Magic in.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
It's a different storefront, but the same like place where the old, I wouldn't even call it an LGS. It was like back in the day when they were like gift shops.
Oh yeah.
It was called Gifts for Guys and Gals, and the wife owned the front of the store, and the husband did the back of the store. So the front of the store was like candles and cards, and like literally there was one thing we would all always crack up about because they had like chocolate body paint.
And we've all,
and it's like in the back is just Magic, baseball cards, football cards, and one 8-person long table.
Yeah.
And that was the spot where we would play F&M was 8 people. Like that was it. So
it reminds me of this like a banh mi shop on the it's like China, Lower East Side area. It's like in the front of the store is just like a jewelry shop, and in the back they just like sell banh mi.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just like a combination.
Yeah, I think the Baltimore crew, they actually go by like the Bun Magic Kitchen Table Pro Tour. That's like the name of their crew. It's like all an acronym, but that's what it stands for. And I think, and Andy and Anthony will correct me, but I think it's because they first all met each other playing in like a bun shop, and they would go and like that was where they would play before like one of their friends opened the LGS in Baltimore in that area now, and it's like a bar, and it's an awesome LGS. That's the Baltimore scene, the Baltimore Cube scene is awesome. So,
but the first time I showed up, because at the time, nowadays I just don't really care as much.
Yeah.
But like I, just like, well, I want to play like a weird groove.
Yeah.
Right. And I showed up and I played a 5-color Seder Wayfinder deck.
Yeah. Seder Wayfinder is a great card.
With Soul Theros.
Okay.
Right. So it was just I don't remember. I think it also had Whip. Right? So it was like a 5-color
Whip of Erebos.
Yeah. And Soul's like the white one, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I think I was just playing against some guys at some local ringer or whatever. And ideally, you're just filling your yard and you just get these guys out.
Yep.
But I was just hard catting Soul Theros. I just couldn't deal with them.
Yeah.
And I think
That's sweet.
I think
Left it off.
Yeah. Well, I was probably like an unknown commodity, like in the larger like area.
Yeah, for sure.
So he was just like, this guy's just like casting these like 6 casting costs like idiots, and I'm just losing to this.
Yeah.
But
That's Magic. That's why it's so.
Yeah, but I ended up like playing a lot of draft, especially during like the Cons era. Right?
Yeah.
I was very, very, very good at Cons draft. I'm not gonna.
Cons draft was that. I feel like that was when I started to index towards just doing Cube and online Cube and like just getting away from more dedicated retail.
It's weird because I don't know why this was the case, but my mind was on fire for a lot of like Cons drafts. Right?
Yeah.
And we ended up playing like some team sealed. I think me, Herbert Holtz, and Ken Ho, I think got like 11th at a team GP.
Yeah.
San Jose maybe.
Okay.
But there was like a lot of stuff that I figured out as far as like just normal draft, and like I don't know if it's like common knowledge, right? Like I could just be saying stuff that like everyone knows, and I just sound like like
I mean, look, this is not we're not aiming for the pinnacle here. This is a conversational.
But like for example, and this was stuff I was sharing with my brother and I was like, It was like, you know those game lands that you had?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I was like, oh, the enemy game lands are like significantly better than like the friendly game lands, right?
Yeah.
Because of the way that the wedges work. You
Yeah.
know? If you have like Scour Barons, which is like, is that the white black?
White black, yeah.
Fits into Mardu and Abzan, but then Blossom Sands only fits into Abzan.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other like wedge that fits.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to like prioritize those ahead of these.
Yeah.
And then the format was still like morph based, right?
Yep.
That there was a black card that was like it was an enchantment that was 2 casting costs. So it was like -2/-2.
Okay.
Right. And I told my friends, right? I thought it was like basically a first pick.
Yeah.
Because if you're on the draw, they go turn 3 morph, right? This is a way for you to get back to tempo. You can just like play that and then like play like a game land or whatever, you know, as an example. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
But and then I got Esper Dragons came out
Okay.
at Pro Tour, and then I won I think like 5 straight FNMs with it. But it was funny because the first RPTQ was standard. It was at Red Caps.
Yeah.
And my name was on like the leader. You remember that leaderboard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
So I was like 5 weeks in a row, like like Esper Dragons, like Lan D Ho.
Yeah.
And my first round opponent sees me that he knows what I'm on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's it's a choice to have that up there, especially when the meta's defined.
Yeah. So I think I won like 3-3.
Yeah.
You know, it was not like, the best showing for me. You know?
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
I mean, so when you came to Philly though, was it the same experience as coming to New York, or did you kind of come in without the same network and then build it from there, or did you like?
Oh, I mean,
Because Philly and New York are so close, I feel like there's always acquaintances or friends of friends and like that kind of thing. But what was it like for you making that move?
well, I was making a lot of trips back to New York,
Yeah.
but I had kind of a built-in network. Like Chris McClure got me the interview.
Yeah.
The job I ended up with, and I got to stay at his house while there, because he was moving from New York back to Philly,
Yeah.
and they bought a house they were remodeling.
Yeah.
So while they were in the process, I got to like stay at this like at the house while it was being remodeled.
Yeah.
While I was looking for my own place.
Yeah.
Right. So I had a few friends in the Philly area, but then I think at my job they hired. It was like 30 people at the same time. You know, it's just like our class.
Yeah,
right?
class.
Yeah. And so I just became friends with like a lot of those people.
Okay,
You know,
cool.
and then because Chris was like fairly high up at this company, he was like a respected senior
Yeah.
like guy at the company. I became friends with like his friends there.
Yeah.
And like I think Igor Freeman like worked there too.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
kind of like a hodgepodge.
Network. Yeah.
Yeah, not like New York where it's just like, you know, you go to like a random like gallery opening right on a Thursday in Chelsea, and then you become best friends.
Yeah,
With like
yeah.
someone that's free blind.
Fair enough.
But yeah, and I'm kind of like a social person anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So like I would go when I would go to FNM or like whatever other magic things that are going on, you just kind of became friends, especially with the other good players.
Yeah.
I played a
That's funny because like the people that you know that I know are all my friends that are good at magic.
yeah. I mean like a lot of them were like they like constructed a lot more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
I always like limited more, but I played constructed just because I had to try some kind of interesting. You know?
Did you know Lucas Seow when he was in Philly?
So he had just left.
Okay.
Because
he just moved back to Canada.
Yeah, because he just got like first or second in that Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was playing like Control Abzan.
Yeah.
Right. So that was everyone knew him, but I didn't overlap with him.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an old episode when I think it was an interview after he did that, and he had just gotten back to Canada, and we were talking about like our friendship, and he was like, yeah, I think the underspoken thing was like we were gonna hang out with you so that like we could like figure out how to like party, and we would just try to make you suck less at games. And I was like, that's the best brutally honest answer I could ever ask for. That's very fair. Yeah. But that was like the whole crew of like Motika and Jackie and Chase and like Frank and all those people. Although Frank and I are very much peers in that regard. But like a lot of that crew that was like more in Philly, didn't know anybody, was there for school, and then just like I was a social butterfly for sure. It's like, I think we were kindred spirits in that way. So it's like, if you're in a room with somebody, we'll chop it up and figure it out. But yeah, Lucas was a good dude for sure.
Yeah, who did I became really good friends with Ralph.
Yeah, Ralph Dash, right?
Yeah. It was funny because he was like almost like a local celebrity at the time, because I think he may have. No, he had done really well at some events.
Ralph and Jackie were the only two that had like top 8 GPs and like had like, other than like some of the big name players that had always been big name players. So like of the younger quotations now, but then Ralph and Jackie I think were two of the players in Philly that had like gone to like some reasonable amount of Magic success. Yeah. At least qualified for the Pro Tour a couple times.
Yeah, Ralph won a Grand Prix, but that was later, I think, right? Wasn't that? That was during Modern.
That had to be after 2015, right?
No, it was before 2015.
Okay.
Because it was he played Company, I think, during like the Eldrazi tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's right. Yeah. But he had already like done pretty well, and so he showed up at the local store, which was Red Gas.
Yeah.
And he was trying to trade a folding tarn that he dropped on the ground and like ran his chair over. Right? He's like,
fair enough.
He's like, if you got a nice folding tarn, I'll trade you this and something else for it.
Yeah.
Just like,
just beat the shit.
Yeah. And then, and obviously he had like a Ralph laugh.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Fair enough. We covered the Magic journey from Texas to New York to Philly and back to New York. What was your first introduction to Cube? Because I imagine that you probably got an earlier peek into cubes than most, just given the general company, but that might just be an assumption.
It's weird. I did something called Broken Draft.
Okay.
With like the Sped crew. Do you know them? Like Brian Menelakis.
No.
So they claimed they invented Cube.
Okay.
Which was they just had a draft. It's just like you have a ton of cards, and those just like the cards that everyone wanted, right?
Yeah.
And you would just make packs.
Yeah.
And then you would just draft, which sounds a lot like Cube.
Yes. A lot like the first cubes that I did. Yeah.
Yeah. And these were like I think I don't know how many cards there are, but there are a lot, right? And they have like multiples of things. You know, like multiple lotuses. In the old days, I want to say there were like a ton of plague rats.
Okay.
And stuff like that. Yeah. Obviously, the list gets refined over time.
Yeah.
But part of it was that they did it's kind of like democratic.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny. Like afterward, people would vote for cards they wanted to keep and cards they wanted to get rid of. And everyone could like vote a card out, right?
Yeah.
But then I think some of the players were also kind of like less competitive.
Yeah.
And they were more like trolls.
Yes.
So they would just like vote to keep these like dog shit cards, and the pool's like pretty like all over the place.
Yeah.
But to what was known as like what was called Cube. I think the first one I did was at Chris McCool's house.
Okay.
And Taya Steele
Uh-huh.
she and her then husband were big like Cube aficionados.
Okay.
And they brought their Cube over. And
do you have a time frame?
I said like 2011, 2012.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I moved to Philly in 2011. This was after Chris's house had gotten remodeled. So I want to say that I'm guessing this had to have been sometime in 2012.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I remember I was on a blue white deck.
Okay.
And I was playing against Tay, and she was like on red green bigs.
Yeah.
Right? And like both games, it was just nuts. Like, you know, first game I think I just went like turn 1 mana vault, turn 2 bribery, and she just scoops, right?
Yeah.
And then game 2, just did the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And then she ended up playing out because obviously, so I just get her like Primeval Titan, you know, and then like she scoops it a couple times later.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Tracks.
yeah, I was like, oh yeah, Cube's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Chris was not playing like a lot of competitive Magic at the time. He was playing like more like vintage and like the occasional legacy tournament.
Yeah.
Which was you know, it was not like a competitive scene.
Yeah.
I don't know if you like were ever into vintage. I don't know if you remember the big debates. They're like, oh, who would do better?
Yeah.
Vintage like experts or pros.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, I'm not trying to shit on like the vintage expert or the legacy experts, but I'm gonna shit on the legacy experts. Right. Like the great players came in and it's only like that's like Knit, Fit, and Maverick. You just kind of got pushed aside. Everyone should play like Red Blue Delver.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's fair.
And that's just like what happened for a long time. And obviously,
Well, I think because I was never a part of that scene, but I knew people that were, and just from an observing perspective, I think there was definitely a reluctancy to accept the power level of newer cards.
Yeah.
Or a lot of Magic players for a game that changes all the time really don't like change. So I could definitely see that. That tracks with kind of my opinions on that scene.
Yeah,
so.
I think Legacy may not have been fully online at the time back then. I don't play Moto, so I don't know. So that could have been a thing too.
Because I know that the Power came out in the 2010s on Moto, but I don't know about all the Legacy staples. There were definitely things left out.
Yeah,
sure.
but just now everything is online, so the meta is just
Wonderful.
super fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In fact, the online meta is way outstrips the paper meta now. Right?
Yeah.
People show up, they play old versions. That's just what they have.
Yeah. They had 1,000+ Legacy players at a tournament weekend this weekend. So
yeah, which is
I can't imagine. I saw deck lists that were way outdated. So yes.
But people are just happy to sleeve up dual lands.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
But so Chris was really into Cube at the time, so he was putting together his Cube and playing it a lot in Philly. Just like with all. Who else? We went to Nate Holt's house.
Yeah. But Rich from Walking the Plains.
Yeah. And Sean Kornheiser. And so Chris was just hosting the time, and then he'll bring it to New York, and then Dano put together a Cube. Yeah. So it's just a lot of people doing Cube guys. I just remember I went on a real heater between Chris's and Dan's Cube, 23-2, to close things out, and I was mostly drafting just
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think people love drafting. They try to do Storm or Power Cards. You know, a lot of people fight over those resources.
Yeah.
But I remember against Dan, we got a turn 3 kill. I went turn 1 Mox, Land, Golden Guide, Elite Vanguard, and then turn 2 Soulbound Paladin or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just and then turn 3.
Double strike guy and then Fire Blast.
And then turn 3 was just an Incinerate.
Yeah.
It was just all right.
Yeah.
But and Skull Clamp was just way too strong.
For sure.
People have underrated that.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't have any special allegiance to Cube. I actually just love Magic.
Yeah.
But I don't love the grind.
Yeah.
Right.
I can identify with that a lot.
Yeah. If someone has a battle box, I just because you just pick up cards and start playing.
Yeah.
Or you have 2 old sealed decks lying around, just pick them up
Yeah.
and play. I remember Alan Wu had a battle box, and what is it? You draw 4 cards, you play a land for your land pile of return.
Yep.
I remember my opening hand had Callous Familiar in it.
Yeah.
That card?
No.
So 2 cast Callous, 1/1 flyer when it dies, you draw a card.
Okay.
And I was like, I realized I was just gonna do 10 points of damage to Alan with this.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to kill. Who wants to give your opponent a card?
Yeah.
I literally did 9 points. I was like, put it back in. And he tried to cast a fly it on a remove the blocker.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my god, I have to kill this card. And he could have done it 9 turns earlier.
Yeah.
But
Magic players are afraid to give their opponents cards, that's for sure.
But it's funny, now the Cube, to see the Cube community grow to the way it did. When I was playing on the Grand Prix and stuff, you had a lot of novelty cubes. I remember you probably know Craig Berry.
Yeah.
Didn't he have a mono green cube?
That tracks.
Yeah. I think he had a mono green cube, and I think that they had a sign on their hotel door. I'm not 100% sure whether these details were Yeah, from what I understand or what I remember, it was just accepting all comers in 3v3 money drafts, right?
Yeah.
On their mono green cube.
Yeah.
I was just
that's sick. That's an advertisement to put on your hotel room.
Yeah. But then like cube, like nowadays it's become like really a matter of self-expression. You know, people love like their cubes. They love the things they can do. They love like getting specific versions of specific cards for the cubes. And then you see this a lot at CubeCon where people have their own like weird niche cubes.
Yeah. I mean, my friend Andrew Prosser in Philly has the Sharpie cube, and it's just like you just take Sharpies to cards. So like Blood Braid Elf is was 4-2.
Okay, yeah.
Or 4-3, I think, right? So it's like he's just changed like a bunch of cards that he loves that he wishes like, hey, like, I want this to feel like it used to.
Yeah.
But with these new cards, so like we're just gonna take a Sharpie and just write over it and make it happen. There's a sticker cube that has like you draft. I don't know. It will be in my CubeCon video, but there's an explanation that's very eloquent about like how you basically can add things to the cards, and then after something gets 3 editions, it gets retired.
Okay. Yeah.
So cards get more and more broken, and then they get removed from the card pool.
Yeah.
And it's just like there's all kinds of like niche stuff. So then Parker Lamaskis has a cube. It's the Noir cube where the only lands in the basic land box are swamps, but it's a 5-color cube.
Yeah.
You just have to draft the other basic lands.
Very torment style.
Yes, exactly. So there's a lot of niches out there, and I will say some of them are terrible.
Yeah.
And some of them are really awesome. You know.
It is cool. It is cool that people are like using cube as a means of self-expression. It's like almost a I don't want to call it a counterpart, but it's a maybe a parallel to Commander.
Yeah.
People like have this. So one thing that like Mark Rosewater was talking about a long time ago was the emotional attachment that people had to decks. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like that's a real big thing with Magic, and you see this where people are like, "Oh, I love it."
Yeah.
I don't care how bad Merfolk is in the environment, if it's playable at all, I'll play it. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's your like archetype, bro. Or like people are like, oh, I love the bird, right?
Yeah.
And then Commander like takes that and like amplifies it because it makes your deck your own.
Yep.
And cubes are the same way, except for you get to share what you build, right, with other people, and they get to partake in that.
That's something that I've thought about a lot, and I've talked to a lot of different people about. Is like, obviously Commander is the most popular way to play Magic, far and away now. How do you get those people, or those that would be curious, into Cube? And I think it's that bridge has always been what it's come to us. That like, a Cube is really an extension of an EDH deck, but it asks you to be more vulnerable because it's not you showing up with your opponent showing up with them. It's everybody gets to participate in your self-expression, and that is unnerving to some people. And it asks a lot of you, and it's a lot of exposure. And I've drafted cubes with people that ask for plenty of feedback. They didn't want any feedback.
No, they wanted praise.
Yeah, they want praise. They want to know
yeah.
about how cool their pet thing is, right?
Yeah.
And then there are other cube designers that like actually legitimately want the feedback. But I think it's that like that thread of self-expression that you hit on. I think is so important, and like I think that is, if there's a way to grow Cube beyond where it is now and to try to capture some of that Commander market, or at least like. There's a lot of people that have gotten into Magic and Commander over the last 5 to 10 years. When you've been playing Magic for 5 to 10 years, you're always looking for something else to do.
Yeah.
So what in that pivot moment, how is Cube the next best decision? And like, what do we have to do in the community to like transfer that over? And I think there's that's something that I'm always in pursuit of, just like trying to figure out, because I think that's how you get it more widely accepted and potentially, recognized in a bigger fashion than it is now. So
I think, and I don't want to incorrectly generalize, so this is the caveat that this is like what I think, but I think a lot of Magic players are kind of like afraid of limited in general, right? And you mentioned like being vulnerable. It's true because like if you play constructed, you know your matchups, right? I know Brad Nelson famously played so much standard in the days. He was just like, it was like chess to him. Where like the first like 4 turns of the game would be so scripted. You play this, you play this, you play this, you play this, and like there are only so many decision trees because you only have your manicure and such, right?
Yeah.
But when you play limited, it's like new every time.
Yeah.
Right. And then not only do you not get to play the cards that you want to play with, sometimes you're forced to play with like bad cards.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I love actually.
Oh yeah.
I love grinding out wins with like trash. Right. I love playing like weird cards that people just like don't think are good. Right. But then somehow you got it to work.
In our team draft league this year in Philly, we one of the big curveballs we threw was we asked the other team to draft Gate Crash with us.
Oh yeah.
It was just like the card quality was so different from that. They were like, what is going on here? But I empathize with that fully. Like in our team draft Discord, I was like, can we just not draft any sets that have double face cards? Because announcing my picks gives me severe anxiety of like, I don't want to have to be like, oh, I did it. Everybody at the table, you took that earlier. What?
Oh yeah. It's funny to me the anxiety that you have from that, because the anxiety that I have from a double face card is revealing any information.
Like, for me, it's being judged by the other players at the table, which is a very different thing.
Oh yeah, because I'm just like, I couldn't possibly care less.
Yes.
I'm just like, these people have no idea what they're doing.
I need to at least get comfortable with that part.
Yeah,
at least be comfortable with my own decision.
Like double face, because I would draft like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the who was it that said it? I think T.S. Eliot said no verse is there's no poetry without structure.
Yeah.
Right. And the idea that there's like limitations, right, in self-imposed, it's actually breeds creativity.
Yeah, that's Rosewater has always pushed that, like restriction breeds creativity.
And just the idea, like you're playing limited, and then like I love Sealed Deck where you could go and you could like build a transformation site.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like you have like weird cards that you can just like that are like not good, but they're extra good against a specific matchup.
Yeah.
And then like you're having to think about these things in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I really love. Whereas like Constructed, especially a lot of modern Constructed, feels like very like ABC. Almost.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't played Legacy in a long time, but some friends wanted me to go down to Bifrost.
Yeah.
Right. To play like Legacy, and then I was like, all right. So I just like found a deck that I had the cards for that didn't have any of the new cards really.
Yeah.
Like I think pre-Lord of the Rings. I just showed up, right?
Yeah.
And I think like New York has a pretty vibrant Legacy scene.
I believe that.
So everyone like knew like all the cards and like all the decks.
Yeah.
And then like I just didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Right? But that's because like I just hadn't done the homework. And maybe that's just more of a testament to my laziness, right? But that wasn't like
You're invited to an FNM. I don't think you're being lazy. You're treating it like an FNM.
yeah. But it was just like it didn't feel as fun. It's just like when you go in and you're doing something and everyone else knows what's going on and you really don't really know what's going on. It doesn't feel as fun, right? Especially when it's like the edges are like really small.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, there's, like, is this the key card in this matchup? Is this like the only thing that this matchup like revolves around? Yeah. Whereas in limited, you're just like I went to the what's the new set that just came out?
Oh man. It's not Doctor Who.
No, the Innistrad one or something. Maybe it's no. I thought it's the
Not as long.
Yeah.
That's really excellent.
Yeah. I went to that and I read over the spoiler a little bit. Right? It's just like, what can you do? You're still limited to what you have, right? And I just built a deck that looked good to me.
Yeah.
I mean, like maybe like I had more fun because I won.
Yeah.
Right? I just like felt like the easiest 4-0 I ever had, and I was just like weird. I was like I'm energized with Magic. I want to play more limited.
Yeah.
But it was just like it's funny. Like sometimes you see like Constructed players playing limited, and there's like a certain skill set that they're lacking, like combat math.
Yeah.
Right. Like they just don't know how blocks work.
Yeah.
And I wonder like how much that gets built into cubes, because a lot of cubes. My experience with most cubes have been like trying to like various strategies at going over the top.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people, because people love doing degenerate stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the type of cube certainly defines that, but I think the cubes that like we all started learning on, which was just like, hey, here's a pile of the best cards in Magic, draft those. Like, those are, the decks definitely function more akin to constructed, and there's a whole subset of cubes that try to recreate constructed environments or constructed fields, even in the limited decks. So you don't get that like authentic limited feel, but there's a whole other world of cubes that people build to try to be like limited Magic, and those are a very split crowd.
Okay,
Yeah,
well.
but more popular is definitely like drafting experiences that replicate constructed Magic. I would say is the most popular kind of cube.
Okay.
At least in the community that I've had the most interactions with.
Yeah, because I think in my experience, which is like very, very, very narrow subset, because I've probably played like a lot less cube than many of the other people that you've talked to. But the people that I tend to like cube with, they love just like getting decks that have like, you know, ancestral time lock, you know, all the power. They just love like 5-color nonsense or storm decks.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a fractured identity in Minsky. I'll make it work. Whatever works.
Yeah. But they just love doing like the most broken stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And like to me, that's like less fun as Magic.
Yeah.
Because that's more like building a Rube Goldberg like contraption.
Yes.
You're just trying to.
That's
like,
a great way to describe it.
Yeah, you're just like putting all these cards together and you draw 7, and then hopefully you can just do this.
Hopefully you have piece number 1 or 2 that you can push, and then you start the dominant effect.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, you're done.
I mean, I compared like John Finkel would famously always try to dress Storm when there's like a cube on Moto.
Yeah, I mean he's the impetus for like our back in the day our crew. We always had the ABS motto, which was always be storming.
Oh yeah.
It's just like always be storming. Like people aren't smart enough. If there's 5 of us in a room drafting on one account, we can put together a storm deck better than the rest of the draft. Like,
I mean, I would joke that I would basically say that John was like the Mike D'Antoni of drafting, because I was like, if the pieces are there, he'll have an amazing offense, but otherwise he'll be kind of like, you know, like a. Just,
it'll be a sad deck that has a.
The term, politically incorrect term that like we would use was like abortion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it was just really funny, like watching John like cast like fairy mythology. Try to win with that, right?
Yeah.
You know, the top deck like some like ritual.
Yeah.
You're just like, all right.
Swing and a miss.
Yeah. But
so, your love for limited more so than constructed, and then we've talked about like you're building sealed decks, and you have the duplicate sealed cube. Do you want to explain like at a high level? Because we did it yesterday. It was so much fun. What that is and like why you stumped, like why that was your attempt at like jumping into owning a cube per se. It's almost not a cube, but it is a cube. I would consider it.
yeah, I guess it's like cube adjacent. Like I'm part of the cube. Like, it's on Cube Cobra.
Yeah.
Right, and if that's a definition of like what a cube is, then it's a cube.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was something that Brian Schneider mentioned to me and Brian Kowal, I think like 2013-ish or so. And I don't know if like you know Brian Schneider, but in the early days, I think he was probably like the best deck builder in the world. Right?
Okay.
In like the late 90s, he built like some numerous like format changing decks. He built like 5-color Buried Alive at US 97 Nationals. He built the red, white, blue counterpost deck at Tongo. They placed like 3 people in the top 9 at Chicago. Pro Tour Chicago 97, the one that Bueller won. Justin Schneider and David Mills both played that deck. Right. And so on and so forth. Just amazing deck builder. And he messaged us and was just like, if you guys were putting together a set of Magic cards that like that you could just play with, right, and that didn't change very much, what would it look like, right? And then I think that just planted a seed in my mind over time, because I had actually forgotten that he had like he was the one that reached out, because I thought I reached out to him.
Yeah.
Right, but then I checked the log, the archives, like Brian Hall mentioned it, and like Brian Schneider definitely reached out to us.
Okay.
But then like when Bakula had Q Fever, right, we were working together, I used to like make fun of him a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was just like, well, what if we built something like a grinder's cube where Cabo Climber was good? I don't know if you know Cabo Climber.
No.
It's a card from Tempest that was 3 green, 3/3 draw card. Right? Literally just like super grindy card. Right? So I was just imagining, I was like, oh, you know, there's a cube where you have Cabo Climber and it's like a good card to play with, right? And then maybe you combine it with like Stampeding Wildebeest.
Yeah.
You know, so you're spending 5 mana a turn, you draw an extra card, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and for some reason, like I was just like trying to put together a prototype of this, right?
Yeah.
But then I kept including like real cards, right? Like Trade Wind Rider, you know. Like, oh, Trade Wind Rider would be pretty good with Cabo Climber because you could bounce it.
Yeah.
Draw another card for 5 mana.
There you go.
But then like it kind of just like seeded in my mind, and then pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And I thought that a great present for my friend and his girlfriend was to give them, like I had the idea, like, oh, you build something like this, both of you guys can just play Duplicate Seal, but it's big enough that you can just play it again and again.
Yeah.
Right? And you, like my friend and his girlfriend could just like do this all the time.
Yeah.
Over the pandemic, when you're sitting at home, you know, and like you're just tired of playing cribbage or whatever.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And so I started like sketching it out, but as anyone who's ever like designed a cube from scratch, it's a lot of work.
Yes.
Right? Because like I began thinking about this, and I was just like, what would this look like, right? And I had to like, I started literally from the top down. I was like, okay, right, if it's gonna look like this, I want monocolor decks to be good, but then I want dual color decks to be good, and 3-color decks to have, everything had to have its own identity. Yep. And then 5-color decks have their own identity, right?
Yep.
So I started like sketching out like templates. I was like, okay, what would a good mono red deck look like, right? But then like, what would a blue red deck look like?
Yep. That
used cards from the mono red pool, so that way there's like competition for resources. You just couldn't build, you know, distinct decks, right? Mm-hmm. And like this became something that I was doing. I was like getting a lot of input from Brian Colwell and my friend Bert Jones, and doing a lot of research on Scryfall.
Yep.
Right. Where I was just like, I want cards that do something like this.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And like I said, this was like a much harder project than I thought it would be. And then I was gonna go to GameBoldCon, which this is the year before QCon like got invented. Or
yep.
This is 2021. And
I think they were going to do it, and then they had it postponed once for COVID.
Okay.
And then they was like, so it was an inception, and then it skipped a year, and then they actually did it. But
yeah, so 2022 was the first one, right? And then 2023 was the
Yep.
So 2021, but I was going to Madison for GameBoldCon, which is, you know, the body that like governs QCon. That QCon is a subset of GameBoldCon. And I told Brian Colwell, who's like a great friend of mine, he just loves Magic and loves movies, about this. He's like, oh, this sounds awesome. And that gave me an impetus to actually like put together a physical copy.
Yeah.
So I just like ordered like 600 cards or something, you know? And, and because I was trying to keep costs like down, they came in like, you know, like 90 packages, right? Yeah, it's just like, and but also I wanted to keep costs down because I had the idea that if this became something that other people would play, that I wanted them to be able to reproduce it like pretty cheaply. And I just put it together, and like Cole and I probably played like 20 hours, right, that weekend. And we had the idea, we're building decks 3 at a time on each side. And with the caveat that you couldn't build a deck that had already been built. Okay. But to tell you what it is, just like it's a set of 400 cards, and there are 2 copies of this set. And both sides get the exact same copy, right? And from that you just build decks. Yeah. And the standard way that we've been playing is you build 3 50-card decks with 12 cards side right? But I was thinking like if I took this to CubeCon, I could just have like each seat has like a copy of the set. Yeah. And you build one deck from that. You know? Yeah. Almost like block and spread. Yeah. And that would be like the tool. So I was just like, oh yeah, that would be a cool CubeCon submission because it would be totally different from everything else. Yeah. You know. And then because like not only are you trying to build a deck, but because you see the entire pool, you have like the idea of what's possible in theory. Like obviously, you know, you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, yesterday, like, it was definitely a really cool experience to actually get to try it after hearing about it, and then like when you're sitting in the building phase, like, I had to tell my team, like, no, we have to stop. We have to stop thinking about the decks. We have to cut it off. We can't keep running in this circle of like, well, we can switch that with that. No,
But that's in a way that's awesome. That shows that there's like a lot of replayability.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously, the practical aspects of it, where you're just sitting down, you're trying to play games of Magic, and you get stuck in the build. Right?
Yeah.
But this is kind of like a side thing. But I don't know if like when you do drafts and stuff, whether your friends ever joke about like not actually playing the games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, we'll just draft decks and then we'll vote on like what the best decks are.
Yeah. Oh, we've done that plenty.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, we just want to draft together. Yeah.
So like just like sitting in buildings is actually like a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I took this to CubeCon because Sam talked about wanting to do it, right?
Yeah.
And Sam was awesome. He was like the first person outside of like me and Kowal who like I talked to about this that seemed to like really hold like a lot of the space in his mind at one time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a lot of times people go, on my experience, like people will look at the set, you know, they're just trying to play like, some games of Magic real quick, then they get overwhelmed and they build like something real fast, right?
Yes.
So they'll build like 1 or 2 decks.
Yep.
Or they decide they want to build like an archetype,
Mm-hmm.
and then they just like kind of focus on the archetype.
Yep.
And then Sam went, and the first we got like a 3v3 going, and he gave me like some slight criticism, or he had a slight critique that actually was like the most powerful testimonial. He's like, well, the one thing I don't like is that I have teammates. Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah, which was an amazing thing. But he built a deck that that was positive because I obviously like I can see like what's possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know everything that's possible because I want it to be
Yeah.
such a big space.
Yeah.
And he built a deck that I had never considered.
Yeah.
Because it was so weird. Like it violated the deck he built violated my fundamental like norms that I feel about Magic.
Yeah.
Which is that he built a deck that was basically like 5 colors that were like, it was evenly distributed across all 5
And the
colors.
fixing in this cube makes you work for it.
Yeah.
Just for the context for people watching, like, there is no traditional fetch lands, there's no dual lands, there's no shock lands. I mean, the fixing it hurts. There's no fetchable triomes, there's only the non-fetchable triomes. It's like,
The reason I wanted that is that like like you look at a normal cube, right? A lot of times people will just go and they'll take like mana really high.
yeah.
Right? And then they'll like take good cards, right? So like a lot of the matches either go towards like combo ramp or like 5 color good stuff.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And like
The guy that took all the fetches in the first round.
yeah. So 5 color good stuff just like is not an interesting archetype. You know, especially if like the idea is to play team sealed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I wanted mono decks to be really good because like I wanted people to be able to just build stuff if they were overwhelmed. And also like if your neighbors start playing Magic,
Right.
and they don't know a lot, you could be like, okay, I won't build any mono color decks, but you can.
Yeah.
Right? And they can build mono black or mono red.
Yeah.
You have to build something like 3 color contraption and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But the fixing is like Mirage fetches, the new Dominaria duels that people play taps. So like you can fetch one of those, but then you're like 2 turns behind.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it was painful when I was playing mono red. And I was just not drawing my lands.
Yeah.
I was watching all these lands come into play tap.
And not taking advantage of them.
Yeah, it was just so painful.
And but I wanted to be able to support 5 color mana bases,
Yeah.
but not have it be easy. You know, but I also wanted you to be able to like splash pretty easily if you wanted at a cost. Like if you're playing like blue black control and you want to splash like Kess, right? You can do that, right? Yeah, and
For sure.
Kess seems like it would be good in that deck.
Yeah.
As an example.
Definitely.
But,
Yeah, that was one of the biggest pain points I had yesterday. In the current state, there are 2 dark rituals in the game. And I felt some kind of way about us not playing black.
Oh yeah, I noticed.
And I was like, all right, but like I was definitely going to gravitate towards red X or red, and I decided to just go red, but then I let my teammates do the thing.
Yeah.
I wanted everybody to play what they wanted to play, but
Yeah.
I almost wanted to just pivot to mono black because I'm like, there's 2 2 dark rituals. This has got to be really strong.
My brother asked me after, because I made some change. I boosted up black a little because like black I think was the first color I made on its own.
Yeah.
Or the first color that I spec'd out. And it was a good support color, but when I was building it out, like a lot of the other monocolor decks look like versions of constructed decks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Red, you have like Flame Javelin, Stoke to Flames, Fire Blast, Lightning Bolt. Right. So it just looks like in a Chain Whirler.
Yeah.
In Jack of All, looks like a mono red deck.
Yep.
But mono black, I think I originally built it and it looked like a good mono black limited deck.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so I made some like, I changed maybe like 8 cards, but I pushed the power levels up. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the first question my brother asked when I told him that I played the set yesterday was how did mono black do? Was it too strong?
Yeah.
You know?
Nobody played it.
And I was like, oh yeah, no one played mono black.
Yeah.
So we don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think like mono black is strong. I think so. One thing I did want to do is I wanted there to be no like GTO optimal deck, like Game Theory, GTO deck, Game Theory optimal deck, because otherwise you would just build that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted decks to have like other decks that would just like beat them.
Yeah. For sure.
And to that end, when I was building this, like when you're building a cube or something like this, one of the big problems in my mind is like the mono red problem. Right, like how strong
It's not
mono
a problem.
red? Yeah. Well, it's just like okay,
It's the fun place.
yeah.
That's what all my friends used to call me. Because I was a notorious red drafter because everyone was better than Magic than me. But I was the fun place.
Yeah.
You want to do what you want to do? We're going to see if we can get you from 20 to 0 that fast. Like,
So, but the problem is that like I mean I think everything is better. Like Magic's better when mono red is like a real deck, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you have to play around it, and it, like you said, it kind of like checks you. You know, it stops you from playing like masturbatory Magic.
yes, exactly. Exactly what it does.
But if mono red is too strong, right, then it's just not fun.
Nobody gets to
right?
do
'Cause
the thing.
it's like you have like those Pro Tours would be like 6 mono red types in the top 8, right?
Yeah.
And then it becomes like, oh, who's the bigger mono? Which is like not a great method, right?
Yep.
So when I built this, mono red seems really strong. I was like, oh, maybe it's a little too strong. So I began seeding like some defensive cards.
Yeah.
Like more like life games, more walls, right? Like put Wall of Reverence in,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
kitchen things which is already in there, and so on and so forth. But then I was like, oh, well, maybe these like anti-red countermeasures are too strong.
Yeah.
So I added stuff like Rampage and Ferocity and Skullcrack,
Yeah.
right? And then just more resilient red cards that let you like kind of go bigger or like have more value,
Yeah.
right? And I did that for a lot of archetypes. Like I think like mono blue Curiosity is a real archetype,
Yeah.
but then like I think it just folds to like Archmage, for
Yeah.
example, Silklash Spider.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah.
so that I kind of just built it because like then it becomes like this weird like self-contained meta
Yeah.
that's really rich,
Yeah.
right? And like I think Kowal and Sam Blood both played Sever the Bloodline,
Yeah.
which is like in the cube or in the set I think is really strong. It kills like all the tokens, right? And it exiles, but I don't think it really saw much constructed play
Yeah.
or play
Yeah.
elsewhere. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think. One of the cool things about Cube is that it does give some of the cards time to shine, and it may or may not, just because of format oppressiveness or different things where you can kind of find these like little niches. But I'm gonna have the Cube cover link for the duplicate seal cube below in the description of whatever this is down there. Is there anything like you want to shout out or like? Just like anywhere to find you, you're on Twitter.
oh yeah, I'm on Twitter. My handle is just @LandHo, LANDHO.
Yep.
You can just hit me up there and I'll be easy to find. But one thing that I did want to say I didn't get a chance to say it yet was that I really appreciate everything you've done. Right?
Thank you.
I know that you're not super comfortable with praise, right? But one thing that you really you have a great attitude about everything. You know, you're super positive and you really like building communities, and you love like just like making other people feel good, right? You never try to bring people down. Yeah, and I really appreciate that. I think it's like amazing. So.
Thank you. No, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me to your house and for the duplicate seal yesterday, and I hope to do it many more times. Thanks very much.
I lost that love before.